Anjelica Huston is here. This month she follows in the footsteps of her very famous father, making her directorial debut in the film Bastard Out of Carolina. She began her career at the age of 16 when her father cast her as the lead in his film A Walk with Love and Death. Since then, she has gone on to win an Oscar for her performance in Prizzi's Honor and starred in such other films as The Grifters, The Addams Family, and The Crossing Guard. I am very pleased, at long last, to have her on this broadcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have
be
you
here, too.
Tell me about directing and wanting to do it, and why this project, because Dorothy Allison, as I mentioned to you before we started, was on this program when the book was released, and all of the attention that it brought to her, as well as the plaudits for the book.
Well, I guess I just spent too long sitting around in movie trailers, wondering what everyone else was doing and what took so long. I started thinking about directing, I guess, 10 years ago. And particularly towards the end of my father's life, and after I'd gone through stages of rebellion, to actually observe what he did. And I think particularly on Prizzi's Honor and on The Dead, I sat at his feet more than I had before, and really had a chance to observe him and what he did. And I guess you can't be around it for that long and not somehow develop a taste for it, yes. And so when this came my way, and it sort of came out of the blue, I was set to do something else, a half-an-hour movie that actors are doing right now for Showtime as directors. This thing sort of came into my possession, and with an offer from Turner Network to direct.
Now, did it come as a screenplay, or
it came as a screenplay? Okay. And I hadn't read the book by Dorothy Allison. I was an innocent, or rather a naive, I should say. And I was immediately very, very struck by the material, very moved by the material. So after having read the script, I then immediately went and got the book. And I thought it was tremendously powerful, a fantastic new voice. And since I don't know whose crazy idea it was, but since they'd offered it to me, I felt I'd be very foolish not to pick them up on the offer.
And now, how do you feel about this film and this craft of directing?
Well, they're two sort of separate things.
I know.
About the film, I'm proud that I got through it. I'm proud that I did it. I stand by my belief in the original material. I think it's an important piece. I of course, am a neophyte, so there are things that I see that perhaps I think I could have benefited from more experience. But on the other hand, you have to start somewhere. But overall, I would say that I was happy with the film and happy with the performance.
What happened at Turner?
Well, they suggested I make the film. I was asked to shoot the film head-on, and it's rather potent material.
Just tell the story briefly. I mean, it is about it's about domestic violence.
It's about domestic violence.
I mean, it's about
it covers
incest
12 years in a young girl's life in which she's abused by her stepfather, with finally, ultimately, the knowledge of the mother, and the consequences thereof. I was asked to shoot the film head-on by the executives at Turner. I took it down to North Carolina, and we shot the film. I sent dailies back, and ultimately came back after the film and presented my director's cut to Turner. Went in for a couple of sessions at their offices, and was asked if I might modify the film. In other words, cut, maybe not entirely, but into a couple of scenes, which I think they felt were maybe too traumatic for the television audience. And I was resistant and told them that I felt that in order for the story to make sense, and after all, this is what the story is about, that I really disagreed with them on that score. And then finally, I think they just decided to show it to Mr. Turner himself, who I understand took one look at it and said, not on my network. So then I was cast into a sort of limbo, and ultimately was invited to take it to the Cannes Film Festival, and took it there sort of under my own auspices, and finally it was sold to Showtime, for which I'm very grateful. I'm grateful, actually, to Turner for giving me the chance to do it in the first place. I don't know that he's all that involved with the product from his network, and I guess that's up to him. I don't really have any bones of contention. I got the film made. It's airing now and in its entirety without commercials. So.
And if you miss it on Sunday, December 15th, it'll be seen at other times on Showtime. Here is a clip. Dorothy Allison's book, directed by Anjelica Huston, Bastard Out of Carolina.
It's my one day off, and you got a tear around here? Now just cool it, kid. You're a girl, not a racehorse.
You're a girl, not a racehorse.
Little bitch! You little bitch! Come here! Come on. Come on, you smart. Get over here. Come on. No. You sure?
Glenn? Glenn? Glenn, open the door. Glenn, unlock the door. I'm sorry.
Not as sorry as you're gonna be.
Glenn, please.
Tearing around here,
Glenn,
making fun of me.
Glenn! Stop it!
Hey, she's my girl too.
What'd you do, honey? What'd you do to make him so mad?
I should say that was Jennifer Jason Leigh, and also in this is Jenna Malone, and who else?
Ron Eldard.
That was Ron Eldard.
That was Ron Eldard, Glenn Headley, Susan Traylor, Grace Zabriskie, Lyle Lovett. A lot of
Lyle
people.
Lovett's in it?
Yeah, for a small part. But
Yeah. Does he provide any of the music, or?
no, he provides
As
the
an
face,
actor.
though.
A face. Where do you think you'll go from this? I mean, is this experience so satisfying for you that you're going to now look for projects to direct?
Oh, sure. And if I'm let, yes, I'll do it again. I had a really good time doing it. I loved it. It was a completely different experience from acting for me. Thrilling not to be on screen for once, and great to be involved with so many other areas of filmmaking. And I've always loved set design. I've always loved costume design, and you can stick your nose in all kinds of departments and not get in trouble for it.
There is no way, no possible way, that you would not have been involved in film and theater as your life.
I don't think so. I certainly wouldn't have been a computer expert, or a mathematician, or a banker, or a dentist. I can't imagine what else I would have been useful at.
Yeah. But it gets in the blood, or everybody you know does that, or?
Well, my first experience, I think, in the acting profession was playing one of the three witches in the Scottish play at the age of about 5, 6 years old, to an audience that comprised both my father and Peter O'Toole. So I guess even in those days I had more gall than most. I just loved it. I loved dressing up. I was one of those children who was always sort of in my mother's hamper and trying to amuse or
What did your father urge you to? Did he encourage you to? Did he suggest that it was
Initially not. No, I think he was rather resistant. I think, you know, the consensus was when I was growing up that children who were involved in film were brats, and I think he'd worked with enough
brats.
Actors to have, yes, to have a certain amount of trepidation about my becoming one, or at least inadvertently becoming one. So he resisted until I was about 15, and I expressed interest in working in theater and working in movies, and consequently he put me in a film called A Walk with Love and Death, which was not a good idea on either of our parts. It was a difficult time. I didn't much like the material, and he felt that, you know, I didn't know enough not to like the material. So we were at loggerheads throughout the making of that movie, and I think finally he agreed with me. It was a bad idea.
What was your relationship with him? I mean, were you close?
We
were
were
they up and down? Did it depend on
we
the
were
year
in
and
many
the month?
ways. He was exacting as a father, and I think he loved his children enormously, but he was also demanding. He was also away a lot, which meant that in his rather long absences we'd grow, and sometimes particularly in the sort of adolescent years, I think he was shocked by some of the developments, and could be scary, and often took one to task in those years, because I don't know how happy he was really at that time, and so I grew up in love and fear of my father, but I adored him, and I wanted his approval, but failing to get his approval, I think I was probably rebellious and difficult.
Difficult for him.
Difficult for him. Later on, it changed, particularly around the time of Prizzi's Honor, because I had the good sense finally to learn my craft, which was helpful around him, because he didn't suffer fools lightly, and I think he preferred what was adult in children to what was childish in children. So from that moment on, our relationship, well, it had already begun to change, and also he wasn't well for the last 15 or years of his life or so. So we became much closer than we'd been. And he could be the kindest, most loving, most gentle, caring person, and he could also be very, very terrifying. He was an interesting dichotomy.
Loving and terrifying.
Mm. Half monkey, half fish.
Yeah. Here is a clip also, and this is interesting to me just to see, because Sean Penn was here, who talking about The Crossing Guard.
Oh, yeah.
His second directing, and he loves directing. I think he almost likes it as much as acting, even though, I mean, he's a brilliant actor, and
he's a good director.
He's a good director.
Yeah.
Because he
because he fortifies you, and he knows what he wants, and I think he's a good writer too.
Extraordinarily talented man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And terribly nice too.
That's what I thought too.
He's a
everybody
sweetheart.
that's what everybody. He was on this program, and he had all this reputation. And we had this conversation, not unlike what you and I are having, as he was smoking. Because I could not have gotten through it without smoking, I don't think. And he was just terribly interesting and nice. I mean, and all that other stuff that somehow had swirled around him.
Well, can you
The bad
imagine
boy
being
image.
married to Madonna? I mean, it can't have been easy. I mean, he'd have been a saint not to react the way he did.
Because of Madonna, because of what happens when Madonna goes anywhere.
Exactly, and just the fact that
I don't know Madonna, so I can't imagine what it's like.
I don't either, but but it can't have been an easy circumstance for him. I mean, that's a profound amount of attention. No one deserves that.
Exactly. So you would hit a photographer
Of
if they
course
got
you would.
in your way.
You would have to.
It
You
would
would
have
have
been
no
unreasonable
choice.
not to have hit the
Absolutely.
photographer.
Absolutely.
We should be saluted
Absolutely.
for doing that. Here is a clip, The Crossing Guard, directed by Sean Penn. Here it is.
Do you remember when we were coming back from Vegas? The wind, God. The plane was bouncing all around. I thought I was shaking. Do you remember what you said?
Don't tell me.
You said, pray we crash. Then we can call ourselves survivors. You were so... Where'd that guy go? Then Emmy died. It's made you so small and weak. I needed you to be big and strong. I hated you for your weakness. I hated you. Now I'm pitying you. I don't know how to help you, Freddie.
You and I watched that scene and said the following: there's sometimes in which you see a scene by two powerful actors, and it is so good and so on target and so directed well that it just takes you away. For you, that was one of those. I mean, you were carried away by the moment.
Yeah, when you stop thinking about yourself or what the scene's about or memorizing or anything else, and the scene takes you and the motion takes you, and that's the sublime part of acting.
Yeah.
When you have the least to do with it.
Yeah, and it's all intuitive then.
It comes almost like a miracle, and it's when you don't expend effort.
I mean, I understand. It's almost the best athletic performances are when there's the least sense of what am I doing.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
I'm just caught up in the doing of it.
Or you feel like it's a sort of wonderful visitation. It doesn't happen all that much, but sometimes it happens and you go, wow. You kind of go outside yourself and go, look at this. And it keeps on happening. What could be better?
And do you know why it happens sometimes and doesn't happen other times?
I think the elements have to be right. Or something specific will move you in a direction that you understand, or you'll be able to use something that's available. Or sometimes it's just the grace of God and being prepared.
And how about the actor across from you?
That helps. Big time.
Big time, yeah. What do you say about him as an actor?
Jack is a sort of mysterious quantity because sometimes I look at his work and I think, well, what is it? What is it about him that elicits a return performance? And I think it's because he's so present and not caught up with the ideas of, I mean, obviously he has ideas about how he looks or how he wants to be seen, but when it comes down to it, that all kind of flies out the window, and Jack is there. He's fully present, and there's nothing like that. I mean, that's a real give and take. It's a real return, and you're not out there trying to contact something The thing is, you know, it's like putting out your hand and you put your hand in mine.
Yeah, and it makes you better on the other end.
Of course.
It brings you.
Of course.
Yeah. Is it difficult when you've had a relationship that you'd had?
No, this made it much easier.
No, it did.
Well, sure,
because you pulled on, you knew every inch of each other.
You know every inch of each other, and the scene is about a couple who've had an immense closeness and who've lost something. In this case, their daughter, intrinsic to their relationship. Right. It's about lost opportunity, lost love, and the love that stays whether you want it or not. And all of those ingredients I have with Jack, and better to use them.
Yeah. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be
here. I
here.
really am. Dorothy Allison's book, Bastard Out of Carolina, will be directed Sunday, December 15th, was the premiere, seen throughout on Showtime, because of when we tape this, when Anjelica is in New York. It may have premiered before we are able to put this on the air so that all of you can see it. I urge you to see it because of her and my admiration for her. And also Dorothy Allison, who wrote a powerful book. Let's do this again.
Oh, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anjelica Huston. We'll be right back. Stay with us.